All right, welcome to week 16. Holy cow, I can't believe we were at the end of the semester. This semester, I don't know about you guys, but it's been a great semester for me. Every time I teach a class, I learn something new about either the topic, the content, how to teach it, how to improve the interface, whatever it might be. So I've learned a lot this semester, and I hope you guys have too. What I want to do for the next few minutes is spend a little bit of time teeing up the rest of this week because we're not quite done yet, and talk about the presentations, just briefly highlight chapters 17 and 18, and then talk about the wrap up for next week. Okay? So I'm just going to get right into it as far as this week's activities. What I want to make sure you guys recognize in week 16, all of these are due on Friday. If you go over here to the calendar, and you look on this, I know this is a change from normal, but hopefully those that have been paying attention to the due dates, you've realized this long before, but these are all due on Friday. Part of the reason for that is, one, you guys had all last week off to either get caught up or to get ahead a little bit on things, and also I've got a lot of grading. There's a lot of things to get done before we wrap up the semester with grades, so I want to have all those completed on Friday so I can do the grading over the weekend, get your grades all updated with where you are to date, and then the final exam will be open Monday morning at I think 6 a.m. and then it will close at Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. So you have a couple days to complete that final exam. And it is not a comprehensive final exam. It's over the last 3 chapters of the textbook, chapters 16, 17, and 18, and will be multiple choice fashion similar to the previous exams. Okay? So don't forget, all of this stuff is due on Friday. No late assignments accepted. So if you want to get points for those, my suggestion would be to get on that. Also, the weekly discussion is up and going, and you need to have that completed by the end of the day on Friday as well. That will close 11:59 p.m. on Friday. So please get all of those things completed, and then you'll be in good shape, and all you'll have left to take is the final exam next week. And then your grades will be posted in D2L and then transferred over to the MapZone system at the completion of next week. So that's just a little bit of housekeeping that I wanted to cover. The next thing I want to talk about are the presentations. So the week before Thanksgiving, a couple weeks ago, everybody participated in the GoToMeeting presentations, and I think I thought they went pretty well. I mean, we had a couple snafus with some folks here and there. Not a huge deal, but it is something that occurs. Whenever you increase the level of technology, the chances of technical issues or failures is going to go up. So nice job on that. Hopefully you guys walked away from that site visit activity with a couple things that you learned. One, that I believe I asked everybody as far as during your presentation after you did it, is what did you learn from that? And most people responded in some fashion that says, well, the stuff that we're talking about in this textbook, the concepts, the theories, the ideas, those are things that people really struggle with in the workplace, probably on a daily basis, if not sometimes hourly basis. So hopefully you guys were able to connect with folks that were actually managing people and realizing that these are relevant topics that we're studying and trying to figure out how to become better at managing people's behaviors in the workplace. And the whole reason that we want to manage people's behaviors in the workplace is because if we were in a classroom setting, and I'd ask you guys to answer this, is to improve the performance of the organization, improve the experience for the customer. I mean, insert your saying here, and whatever that may be with regards to behavior, there's a lot of research that shows that employees that are happy, engaged in their jobs, the customers are happy as well. There's a lot of research that shows that when employees feel engaged and have high organizational commitment, the turnover goes down in the company, which helps reduce cost and probably helps increase performance as well in that company. So there's so many things that connect an organizational behavior to performance improvement. This is why people, if they aren't paying attention to it, this is why people need to pay attention to it. All right, so The other thing I'd like everyone to do, and I believe I brought it up in many of the site visit presentations, is to basically, at the very least, I want you to send an email to the folks that you visited. That would be like the bare minimum, is an email. Thank you for your time. What's really awesome and I think really classy is go get a thank you card or make one up or whatever. You and your teammate, sign your names. Thank you for allowing us to come visit your operation. It was a great experience. Hope to see you again in the future or whatever. Drop that in the mail to them. A handwritten thank you card is a pretty classy and professional way to follow up on an activity like this. So if you've already done it, kudos. If you haven't done it, minimum, send an email thanking them or call them and thank them. I think a really nice way to follow up on that is to do a handwritten thank you card. I still send thank you cards to people. When I go on visits, I visit a lot of companies around town and other aspects, and I still follow up with just a simple handwritten thank you note. So please do that. And I think you'll reap the benefits from that, just not in good karma, but in other aspects of that as well. One other housekeeping thing I forgot to mention is that the student evaluations are active for the online course. Now, many of you have taken on-campus courses, and you know that we do student evaluations this time of year where you get a handwritten one and you fill it out. You should have gotten an email from CMU asking you to complete a student evaluation. Where you'll find that student evaluation is you go to your MAV zone. I'm going to walk you through it a little bit. I'm not going to be able to show you the exact evaluation because I'm not a student, but you're going to want to go to your Student Academics tab in MAV zone. You're going to want to scroll down here to Evaluations, Surveys, and Voting. And when you click on that, that will take you to the online evaluation for this course. Now, there may be multiple course evaluations there if you're taking multiple online courses. If not, you only have my course on there. Please click on that and complete the evaluation. Faculty don't see the results from those evaluations until probably the beginning of next semester. They're completely anonymous. I have no idea who completed them. Your name is not attached to that in any way. And we do use those evaluations to improve the courses. You'll be asked questions about the delivery system. You'll be asking questions about my performance as an instructor and all of that. It's kind of fitting that we are talking about student evaluations and human resource management because this talks about performance evaluations. But this is your opportunity. If things worked well for you, or you think this class was facilitated well, this is your opportunity to say that. If you think this course needed some improvement or wasn't facilitated well, this is your opportunity to say that as well. We really need feedback. I build on feedback. I did a survey earlier in the semester, and you guys gave me some feedback, and I tried to modify a few things. So I do listen to that. All of the faculty do. So if you could please take the time to complete your student evaluation, it'd be greatly appreciated by all of us. So once again, go to your MAV zone, your Student Academics tab, scroll down to Evaluations, and it'll be right there. Okay? Thank you very much for doing those in advance. Let me jump back to the class. All right. So we've got some housekeeping cleaned up. We've talked about the assignments are due this Friday by the end of the day. The final exam will launch on Monday morning, so you should have access to that starting Monday, and that closes next Wednesday. There are these two chapters, Human Resource Management and Change Management, or Managing Change. These are two great chapters. I don't spend a lot of time in the human resource policies and practices during my on-campus class, not because I don't think it's important. It's vitally important. But most of you guys will all take a course in human resource management. Maybe you're taking it concurrently with this class, or maybe you're going to take it next spring or next fall. In that class, you will be reintroduced to, or you'll build on a lot of the concepts that we talked about in this class, especially when it comes to motivation, how does compensation affect that, performance evaluations, how to design performance evaluations, how to administer them, and then you get into a lot of the legal laws and everything that are part of the human resource management component within organizations. So I just wanted to talk about a few things, though. If you think about human resources, policies, and practices in the context of organizational behavior, the main focus of human resources, not the main, but one of the main focuses of human resources is to be able to recruit, retain, and develop people within the organization. And the way they do that, especially in the recruiting phase, is you're trying to make predictions. We're trying to predict, is somebody going to fit with our culture? We're trying to predict, is somebody's performance going to be at the level that we expect? We're trying to predict if somebody's skill sets that they say they have on a resume or on a job application are able to do that. So we spend a lot of time in human resources trying to predict things. And it's a really sketchy science trying to predict how people are going to behave. I said this whole semester, this whole topic of organizational behavior, why we build it, we try to make decisions based off sound research, and the research is getting better and better. There's still a lot of unknowns. It's hard to predict people's behaviors. But we have gotten better. I'd say in the last 20, 30, 40 years, we've made some strides. I think with a lot of the neuroscience research that's coming out, where we're able to monitor people's brain waves and see what's happening, and we have devices and recording things that are able to record people's tone and their emotions in their speaking, and we're finding that it's not necessarily what's said, it's how it's said. It has a huge impact on how people react to things. So I think the next 15 to 20 years, with the integration of technology into organizational behavior research, is going to give us more insight into how to predict and manage people within the workplace. So you guys are coming into the workplace, or many of you are already in the workplace. I think we still have yet to see a lot of cool things happen. So the beginning of chapter 17 starts off with this little little case study on the NFL. We talked about the Wonderlic intelligence test earlier in the semester, a cognitive ability test earlier in the semester when we're looking at how to measure certain things. You'll learn more about these types of tests in human resource management. But the Wonderlic test, the NFL, I think the NBA also uses it as well, but they use these to basically measure the cognitive ability, the horsepower of some of their recruits. What's pretty interesting is that most of the folks are pretty darn intelligent that are in the NFL. And if you look at some of these people here, a lot of the folks that are of the higher level of cognitive ability in the NFL are actually the quarterbacks. Which makes sense. They've got a lot of things they've got to manage. They've got to make quick decisions, so that doesn't surprise me too much. But anyhow, just an example of how these organizations are using instruments to try to predict the ability of individuals. So as you go through this, it'll walk through some different stages of how we try to become more accurate with our predictions of employing people. Interviews are still the most common type of tool used. Unfortunately, interviews are probably the most suspect and not very reliable way to hire people. There are a lot more reliable ways to do that. So typically people use interviews, but then they also follow it up with many different types of tests. I'm not going to go through all of these in your chapter. You guys have plenty of activities with the simulation, the activities in my management lab to help you understand some of those a little bit better. So have fun with that chapter. Realize that I think in the context of org behavior, human resource policies and practices are kind of the how we manage behaviors in the workplace, not necessarily the what's. So we do rely on that quite a bit. So let me take us over to the next chapter on change management and organizational change and all of these aspects of this. This is another area that your discussion topic this week is asking you to kind of understand how to manage a change process at Subway. So it'll be interesting. I've already previewed some of those and watching the new ones that get posted up there. But these are pretty solid methodologies for approaching change. So the entire book up to now, maybe with the exception of the human resource policy chapter, the chapter 17, but all the other chapters we've been talking about, managing behaviors, managing emotions, managing conflict, developing leaders, structuring organizations in a certain way. Well, whenever you do that, that's probably going to involve some sort of change within the workplace. So let's say that you've come up with a new compensation system that you think is going to be more motivational or help with retention. Well, that is a change for employees. Some people are going to be for that, some people are going to be against it. So when you get into an issue of some sort of planned change, there are ways to walk through and manage some of those a little bit more methodically so you don't end up with chaos. So they talk about Kurt Lewin. They talk about Kotter's 8-step model. These are all pretty sound processes or methodologies to approaching change. But keep in mind that a lot of planned change doesn't stick very well. And the number one reason for it not sticking is the way that it was designed and implemented. Not necessarily what they wanted to get done, but how they went about getting it done. So as you go through this chapter and as you work through the simulations, some of the other activities, think about that. Think about how you can make some of these changes in your workplace, or if you're there, and some of the aspects that help improve that. Okay. So once again, get into that. Let me know if you have questions or comments on this. I teach this course at an MBA level, and we actually spend almost an entire half a semester, about 8 weeks, going through change management, because when you get into organizational behavior, a lot of the aspects of implementing these things are about how do you manage that change and how do you facilitate it for it to become successful. You'll hear some stats. There's some videos and things, I believe, that are out there that cite things that say 70% of planned change fails. And that's probably pretty accurate. I know in my experience with change initiatives, they may work initially, but they're not very sustainable because leadership or the employees that were part of this change didn't necessarily buy into it initially. All right. So I think I've covered all of my topics I want to hit on. I've got a cheat sheet here, so when I talk to you guys, I don't just ramble on, because I could talk for hours, as many of you probably know. I just want to rewind very quickly to the beginning of our textbook. This model that I have up here, I think, is a very helpful model to understand what you've been learning this semester. I think it's always important at the end of a class to stop and reflect and think about, what did I learn? What did we just do? I've just spent a ton of time going through this topic, and hopefully you guys have walked away with an understanding. When you look at people's behaviors and organizational behavior, we're looking at it at the individual level, we're looking at it at the group level or team level, and then we also look at it how organizational structure affects the behavior within organizations. So think about bureaucratic, think about flat organizations, think about a matrixed organization. All of those types of structures can impact how people are going to behave in the workplace. And then we went through all aspects of these: psychology, social psychology, sociology, anthropology, and many of these topics. I think every one of these topics was covered in our textbook. So I think this is a helpful page to go back to and reflect on when you think about wrapping up, or what organizational behavior means to you and your elevator speech. So I think it's always good to think about, if somebody asks you, okay, what did you learn in this org behavior class? My hope or desire is that you can articulate something along the lines that says, we learned about behavior, how people behave in the workplace at the individual level, individuals, people, how they work in teams and groups and departmental levels, and then how the structure of an organization, how it's structured, affects people's behaviors as well. If you can come up with those three things, individuals, groups, and organizational level, and then be able to at least understand conceptually some of the connections between psychology, social psychology, sociology, and anthropology, I think that you have achieved some great things. If you're leaving this semester with more than you came with, as far as knowledge, that's a good thing. Now, hopefully, through the literature review, through the site visit, through the simulations, many of the other activities, you've been able to put some context to those as well, which I think is just as important. And then here's a quick look at the model that we kind of went through this whole semester. Once again, the organizational level, the group, and the individual level. All right, you will not see a video from me next week. I'll be grading the final exam, and I'll have those all graded and posted before the end of the week. So keep an eye on D2L, keep an eye on your grades, and you should be able to see your final grade come up. And that's the grade that will basically be put into MavZone for the final grades. Everything right now should be up to date. I've graded everything over the Thanksgiving break, so you should have a pretty good idea where you are grade-wise at this point. It's been a great class. Enjoyed getting to meet you guys so off and on, and enjoyed reading all of your discussion postings. I think one of the positives of an online class, and I've mentioned it before, is that I think we learn more from other people's experiences in an online class more than we do a face-to-face class, because the discussion topics and the activities, and especially the discussion topics, kind of force us to say more about who we are and what we're doing and how we're going to apply these. It's easy to think and talk about it. It's another thing to think and write about it. And so that's why you spend quite a bit of time in your undergraduate degree doing a lot of thinking and writing, and then we followed up with talking so we can articulate what we just wrote about. All right, that's it. I'm going to sign off, and hopefully we'll see you guys around campus, or I'll see you next semester in some of my other classes. I know I'm teaching the Human Resource Management course online, and I believe I saw some folks from this class on that line too, so I look forward to working with you guys again. Don't be shy to stop by and see me if you're on campus. Love to meet you guys, and have a great semester break.